Is McLaren in trouble? Qatar didn't just test the grid, it exposed something inside McLaren that should make every Norris and Piastri fan nervous. Because while Max Verstappen walked through the heat like a machine, McLaren looked fragile, stretched, and dangerously inconsistent. And for the first time all season, the cracks were impossible to ignore. Qatar wasn't just a race, it was a warning. A warning that McLaren's biggest weakness isn't pace. It's a flaw that shows up only when conditions get extreme. And with one race left in the season, Abu Dhabi may force McLaren to face that flaw head-on. Let's break down the truth that Qatar exposed, the one McLaren didn't want revealed on the world stage. McLaren entered Qatar with confidence. Their high-speed cornering strength, aerodynamic balance, and long-run pace made Lusail look like a track built for them. On paper, this should have been a damage-limiting weekend at minimum and a podium fight at best. But the moment the race began, their weaknesses appeared faster than their strengths. The heat destroyed their tire plan, the tire rules destroyed their strategic flexibility, and the extreme physical demand punished their car balance in ways we haven't seen before. The result? Norris and Piastri left Qatar with fewer points than they should have, a fight-scarred car philosophy, and a long list of problems that Abu Dhabi could expose again if they don't react quickly. So what exactly went wrong? Why did Qatar make McLaren look vulnerable, and what must they fix before Abu Dhabi? Let's start with the biggest issue. McLaren struggles when a track forces them into fixed, rigid strategies. Qatar's tire rule that no tire can run more than 18 laps removed strategic creativity. Normally, McLaren thrives when they can run alternate windows, stretch a stint, undercut aggressively, or manipulate tire life through clean air. But in Qatar, strategy became a math problem. 57 laps, maximum 18 per tire. Everyone is forced into the same pattern: push, pit, push, pit, push. This is not McLaren's ideal scenario. They lose their biggest race tool, which is strategic flexibility. But the deeper problem is this: McLaren's car uses tires differently from Red Bull. Their front axle is sharper, their rotation is faster, and their mid-corner speed is higher. This is great on normal weekends. But in Qatar, a high-load, high-stress circuit, it means their tires overheat faster. And since drivers had to push every lap due to the forced pit strategy, tire temperature spiraled. Once that happens, everything collapses. Grip loss, sliding, higher degree, more energy loss, more overheating. This hurts McLaren more than Red Bull because Red Bull generates pace with less tire energy, and Qatar made that difference painfully obvious. Because once the race became a flat-out sprint with no tire saving allowed, McLaren's biggest hidden flaw surfaced. Their car still relies too heavily on aggressive rotation speed to produce lap time. That's fantastic on circuits where tire saving matters, because McLaren can extract grip without destroying the rubber. But on a track like Qatar, where drivers were forced to push at maximum commitment every lap, that sharp front end becomes a liability. Every microslide overheats the fronts. Every overheated front tire destabilizes the rear. Every rear slide adds more stress to the driver. And suddenly, McLaren's greatest strength is its rotation that turns into its biggest weakness. This is also where Red Bull's terrifying efficiency becomes clear. Their RB architecture produces lap time with less slip, less steering angle, and less energy loss. When the tires are forced into extreme heat cycles, Red Bull stays calm. McLaren doesn't. Norris and Piastri were fighting rotation mid-stint, especially in the fast sequences where the car demanded constant neck load and precision. Meanwhile, Verstappen was essentially resting its speed, using minimal input to maintain pace. That difference accumulates over 57 laps. Qatar also exposed how McLaren's aero platform still punishes the car when yaw angles increase. The moment Norris or Piastri went a few degrees beyond ideal rotation, the floor lost performance instantly. This forced both drivers to correct more often, pushing their heart rate and physical load through the roof. And on a night where drivers were already overheating inside the cockpit, having to fight the car made the race twice as punishing. The final blow came from the mandatory pit cycle rhythm. Because everyone was forced into identical tire windows, Ferrari and Red Bull could time their stints perfectly. McLaren couldn't. Their outlaps didn't fire up quick enough. Their in-laps weren't as explosive. Every lap they lost a tenth, not from lack of pace, but from lack of stability. Qatar didn't reveal a new weakness. It exposed the one McLaren has tried to hide. Their car is incredibly fast, but only inside a narrow performance window. Once they fall outside it, heat, humidity, track evolution, mandatory strategies, they struggle more than their rivals. This is one reason Norris looked fast early, then struggled to hold the rhythm later. It's why Piastri, even with solid pace, couldn't attack the way he normally does. Their car wasn't bad, the environment punished their weaknesses. Now add the next problem, McLaren's aero sensitivity to extreme heat. Heat doesn't just affect the driver. It affects brake temperatures, tire pressures, and aerodynamic efficiency. McLaren's car works best in cool, moderate track temperatures. Their aero-down window is narrow. Their aero platform is sensitive to changes. Qatar's furnace-like conditions and evening humidity messed with that window. Their tires were ballooning in pressure, their floors were overheating, their balance was shifting mid-stint. That's why Norris radioed multiple times about instability. That's why Piastri had difficulty leaning on the car in high-speed corners the way he usually does. Qatar exposed something important. McLaren still doesn't have full control over their high-temperature performance window. That's dangerous, because in a championship fight, you need a car that performs everywhere, not just on cool circuits like Suzuka, Silverstone, and Singapore. Now we get to the next major weakness Qatar exposed. McLaren struggles on circuits where physical limitation becomes a factor. This wasn't about Norris and Piastri being unfit. They're two of the fittest drivers on the grid. This was about how the car uses energy. The McLaren requires more mid-corner force to extract lap time. This means drivers have to muscle the car more through sustained G-forces. On tracks like Qatar, where every corner is punishing, this burns the driver faster. Norris admitted the race was extremely tough physically. Piastri said he struggled to keep the rhythm under the physical load. Meanwhile, Verstappen remained calm, stable, and composed because the Red Bull requires less physical input to maintain high-speed performance.
This is the unseen weakness. McLaren's car takes more out of the driver than Red Bull's. That means in brutal races, they fade sooner. Now let's talk about race management. McLaren has one of the best strategic teams in the paddock, but Qatar put them under a spotlight. Their pit windows were too predictable. Their outlaps lacked bite. Their tire warm-up wasn't as strong as Red Bull's. And most crucially, they couldn't adjust their plan mid-race because the rules eliminated flexibility. McLaren thrives in chaos. Qatar removed the chaos. And when F1 becomes a simple, brute force race, Red Bull thrives. Another detail fans noticed, McLaren's balance changes drastically between fuel loads. Their car feels amazing in qualifying trim, light, sharp, aggressive. But Qatar exposed the truth that on heavy fuel, their rotation becomes unstable in long corners. They were sliding more than they wanted. Sliding overheats tires. Overheated tires destroy stints. Destroyed stints force drivers to push harder to recover. Pushing harder increases physical fatigue, and fatigue leads to small mistakes which causes lifting earlier, braking differently, losing rhythm. Norris looked strong early in multiple phases of the race, but he couldn't maintain it. That is not a driver issue. That is a balance evolution issue. The MCL 38 and the 2025 Evolution does not maintain its balance as consistently as the Red Bull throughout changing race conditions. Let's be honest, Qatar cost Norris and Piastri valuable points. They left the race knowing they underperformed relative to their true pace potential, and that hurts in the championship narrative. So what must McLaren fix before Abu Dhabi? The good news is Abu Dhabi is extremely different from Qatar. The bad news? Some of Qatar's exposed weaknesses will matter again. Here's how McLaren must improve. 1. They need better tire temperature control. Abu Dhabi has multiple abrasive sections and high track evolution. The DEG can spiral if the setup isn't perfectly balanced. McLaren must widen their windows so they don't overheat tires during long high-speed sequences. 2. They need a more stable aero platform in changing temperatures. Yas Marina shifts from hot sun to cooler night. Balance can change drastically between the first half and second half of the race. They must ensure the car doesn't become unstable as temperatures drop. 3. They must avoid overloading the front axle. Qatar punished their sharper front end. Abu Dhabi's final sector with slow corners will expose instability if the car rotates too aggressively. 4. They must optimize their strategy for clean air. McLaren struggles in dirty air more than Red Bull. Red Bull's floor generates consistent downforce even behind cars. McLaren loses stability. To beat Red Bull, Norris and Piastri must avoid getting stuck in DRS trains. 5. They need to conserve driver energy. Abu Dhabi isn't as physically brutal as Qatar, but it still has sustained G-forces. McLaren must give drivers a car that doesn't require constant correction in long stints. This matters especially for Norris, who makes the most aggressive mid-corner movements in the field. 6. They need perfect pit execution. Abu Dhabi is always decided by undercuts and tire life. One slow stop, one mistimed strategy call, one moment of hesitation, and the season finale slips away. But if the weaknesses Qatar exposed return, Abu Dhabi could become another painful reminder that McLaren still has one more evolution to make before becoming true championship winners.